Well, hello, folks. Jeffrey Darty, the Christian Whistleblower, back with you, talking today about triangle number 2 in our 4 triangles of really human ascension. Talked yesterday about the triangle of mastery. Today we're looking at the triangle of spirituality. And I deeply and strongly encourage you to go back and listen to yesterday's broadcast because it's very, very important, and it's very helpful for you to have the understanding of all 4 of these triangles and how they interact and interrelate. A picture, if you will, and I think this picture is on the show page, a circle with a square in the middle of it that's turned on its side. I guess it'd be what we call a diamond, like a baseball diamond. And you've got lines drawn in between all the points of the square, so it in effect gives you 4 triangles, but we really want to look at it as 2 triangles. That top half is a masculine triangle, that bottom half is a feminine triangle. I'll leave it to you to discern the symbology of that. And then each of those triangles is subdivided into 2 triangles which have meanings and come together to form the one triangle. And just because the top triangle is masculine energy doesn't mean you don't use feminine energy in it. It just means that typically the activity in those triangles, those 2 that we're looking at, we looked at yesterday, number 1, the triangle of human mastery, and then number 2 today, triangle of spirituality. Masculinity or masculine energy is the dominant requisite energy for functioning in those triangles. And then on the bottom 2, which we'll look at Thursday and Friday, the triangle of time and the triangle of communication, the dominant, most needed energy in those 2 triangles is the feminine. And I'm looking at them as I talk, so if I sound like I'm kind of stuttering or there's gaps, it's just because I'm pondering and lots of things come into my mind. But we talked about the human mastery triangle yesterday: having knowledge, getting knowledge, gaining knowledge, responsibly applying that knowledge in order to give you control. That will give you mastery in any area of your life when you do it. It works every time it's tried. Today we're talking about the spiritual triangle, the triangle of human spirituality, and there's really a couple of different aspects to the triangle of human spirituality. Number 1 is, you look at the 3 points of the triangle, number 1 as divinity, God. We deal with God, we deal with divinity, we deal with the universe, whatever you want to, or however you want to describe it. Think of that as the top part of that triangle: God, divinity. And of course, if you understand God and divinity, you understand that there's a masculine aspect to God, there's a feminine aspect to God. It's balance, right? You get that, you understand that there's balance. And then, you have us as beings, gods in training, if you will. Am I going all Mormon on you? You're going to be a god? No, what I'm saying is that we were created in the image of God. We have the spark of divinity within us, and we're trying to get back to God. So we are recognizing and worshiping and having as our prime goal divinity, and we realize that we are a part of divinity. That's the second part of that leg of that triangle. And then we realize that others are also part of that divinity. We see God, we recognize God, we realize God. And then we see God, we recognize God, we realize God in ourselves. And then we see God, recognize God, realize God in others. And we understand that there's no us, or excuse me, there's no them, it's only us. There's no duality, good, bad, us, them. There's only oneness. And there's only oneness because there's divinity as the divine, eternal divinity. Then there's the divine spark in me. And then there's the divine spark in thee. So we get to the place where we understand that we're all of the same stuff. We're all headed back to the same place. I know that sounds real new agey and touchy-feely and all of that kind of stuff. But it also happens to be very, very true. And when we realize it and begin to act that way and understand that way, that's when things begin to change. I mean, when you understand that there's God, and then you understand, that changes your perception. If you didn't believe in God, or if you have been turned off by religion, it changes your perspective dramatically when you realize, hey, you know, it's not about God, it's not about religion, it's about God. That's a huge realization and revelation for you. And then when you realize, hey, I have divinity within me, that'll do a lot for your self-image. That'll do a lot to make you stop doing destructive and damaging things and having destructive and damaging thoughts about yourself. And then when you realize, hey, there's divinity in everybody else too, that really changes the way that you interact with people. That changes the way that you talk to people. That changes the way that you feel about other people, and it changes your perspective on the global community as well. And then if you really start realizing what's going on, you realize that God is also in the other beings and creatures and life forms on this planet. And then you're like, wow. You really start to get it. You really start to tune in, and you really start to understand and you get the knowledge, and you start taking responsibility to apply it, and then everything comes into control, and you feel like you start realizing your responsibility to God, your responsibility to yourself, your responsibility to others. It's great. So when you begin to understand the three parts of this triangle spirituality, your God, yourself, and others, you can really start to become an integrated person. And I realize that right now, to some of you, I sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. Womp, 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 womp. That's okay. If that's what it sounds like to you, and you don't feel like learning it and you're waiting for an interpretation, then feel free to move on. This isn't for everybody. But some of you are picking up what I'm putting down, and that's okay, because it's time for you to hear it. You've got eyes to see right now. You've got ears to hear right now. Sorry about that rather loud sip of coffee, but, you know, a guy's got to do what a guy's got to do. And that's the first part of that triangle of spirituality. God, self, others. Now, the other part of it is yourself. Put yourself at the top of that triangle. Put yourself there as a spiritual being, understanding that you're not this body, but that you drive this body. You control this body. You know, I guess the cliche is we're not a body that has a spirit, we're a spirit that has a body. Well, I don't really think we have a body. We drive a body. And the day that you realize that you are not the body, but you're a spirit that drives a body, is the day your life changes. The day that you learn to be 2 feet behind the back of your head and understand and be able to facilitate separating yourself from your body, that's when things really begin to change for you, because you begin to understand your spiritual nature and your spiritual reality. And that, wow, that's just good stuff. And, you know, we can help you do that kind of thing. But you realize that you are a spiritual being, that you're a spirit or a soul, whatever word you want to use, driving a body. I mean, you're using it. It's like, you know, a video game or something, only it's this video game that we call life. And then there's other spiritual entities that we deal with. So you at the top in this instance of the triangle, you as a spiritual entity in the triangle of spirituality. And then, I mean, you can look at it on one corner are unbalanced spiritual entities. On the other corner are balanced spiritual entities. And people are like, well, what do you mean balanced and unbalanced? Well, if you're still in that old dualistic paradigm, you can look at it as good or evil, black or white, but it's not really that. It's either balanced or unbalanced. And we'll talk first about balanced. Balanced means just simply that. Balanced. This is what you want to spend your time with. This is what you want to learn to be drawn to. This is what you want to learn to hook up with. I mean, you want to look for people, and unfortunately at this point there's not a whole lot of them. But you want to read things from people that you know are balanced in their spirituality. They've got it going on. They get it. They understand it. You want to hang out with people that are balanced in their spirituality. They get it. They know what's going on. They understand it. And you'll know who these people are because you'll know who these people are. I know that's a difficult concept. You just got to learn to understand and recognize balance. And you can do that. I mean, you can see it. It has colors. It's clear. You can feel it. I mean, sometimes you just know, hey, this person's got it going on. And sometimes you're like, I don't know. And it's not just in spiritual terms. I mean, it's about just who do you hang out with. You will become like the people you hang out. Hang out with them long enough, and you will become like the people you hang out. So you want to hang out with people that are balanced. You want to hang out with people that get it. And if you're talking about a dating type of situation, man, do yourself a favor. Just to hang out with balanced people. Just date balanced people. How do I know? Well, you know because you know. You know because you'll learn to see an aura. You'll know because you'll learn to get a blink. You'll know because you'll learn to understand and feel their frequency, their modulation, their vibration. But sometimes you don't have to be all that spiritual to figure it out. She may be gorgeous, but man, if she's got drama, always something going on, man, that's unbalanced. He may be a stud, but man, if it's always something going on, some drama, that's unbalanced. People that are, juggling 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relationships, typically that's unbalanced. People that are secretive, people that have short tempers, people that don't take responsibility and blame stuff on other people, people that are not in control of their stuff. That's unbalanced, and it's pretty easy to see. And you want to stay away from that as a general rule. Now, you got to be friendly to your neighbors. You got to be friendly to your coworkers. A lot of them, most of them aren't going to be balanced. But, you're not going to start a business with them. You're not going to go to bed with them. You're going to interact on a friendly level, and then you're going to move on. And you're going to spend your time with people that are balanced. Now, when you go over to the unbalanced side of things, and we've talked a little bit about it with people, but there's also spirits. And you're going to spend time with balanced spirits. You're going to work with balanced spirits. And when you get to the place where you are able to work in the spiritual realm, you're going to look for and seek and deal only with balanced spirits. If you get to the place where you're looking for an ally, it's got to be a balanced spirit, or you're going to get yourself into trouble. Just for an example, I know it sounds kind of weird. I have a relationship with the spirit of garlic. It's a feminine spirit. It's a protecting spirit, and it's a nice balanced spirit. It's dependable, reliable. We're good. I'm going to run a little bit over today, it looks like. But on the other side of the term, you've got the unbalanced spirits. We've talked about the people, but there's also a lot of spiritual entities that are unbalanced, and the fact of the matter is most of the entities are unbalanced, but the problem is they all want to pretend they're balanced. And there's this craziness. I don't know how else to call it. There's this craziness in the New Age movement that all you have to do is ask a spirit if it's of the light, and it has to tell you the truth. Folks, are you kidding me? You can ask a human being and they don't have to tell you the truth. I hate to pop the bubble, But you cannot depend upon the answer that some spirit gives you to depend on it being balanced. I mean, the Bible even talks about Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Lucifer, are you of the light? Oh, yes. But the truth is, oh, no. You know, Jesus said, actually it was John writing in his epistle, said, brethren, you cannot simply believe every spirit. And I think John was probably talking about, at least in a prophetic sense, Spirit, are you of the light? Spirit, are you of the Christ consciousness? Oh, yes. Folks, sometimes that can still mean, oh, no. They are liars. Unbalanced spirits are going to lie to you. And you've got to get to the place where you can understand how to know they're lying to you. And you've got to get to the place where you know which people are lying to you. You know which spirits are lying to you. And there's really a definite correlation there. No person's going to say to you, you know what, I'm really unbalanced. I really got a lot of drama in my life, and you probably shouldn't hang around me. No, they're going to say, oh, no, everything's good. Because they're going to want to hang out with you. Because you're that kind of person, because you're working through the triangle of mastery, you're working through this triangle of spirituality. People want to hang out with you. But they're going to be unbalanced, and you're going to want to help, but you're not going to want to, it's like the person that's drowning. You don't want to go up and let them pull you under and get drowned too. Drowned, you know what I mean. So you got to learn to tell who's balanced, and you got to learn on the spiritual realm who's balanced, and it ain't just by asking them. I wish that it was that easy. I wish that it was that simple, and I'm not saying that's not a technique that you use, because if you can ask, I can ask a person, hey, are you balanced? And I can look at you, and I can read your reactions. I can read your aura. I can feel your vibration and tell if you're lying to me or not. And you got to be able to learn that for people and learn that for spirits as well. And that's your thumbnail sketch of the triangle of human spirituality. Again, it's God as divinity. Divinity in you, divinity in others, recognizing, realizing there's no them, only us. And then there's realizing you as a spiritual being and learning to deal with unbalanced entities and balanced entities. And usually it's just flooding them with good energy, balanced energy. Sometimes you do run into some nefarious entities that you have to enter into battle with, but that's another day. That's another story. Let me give you this though before I leave. If you're dealing with a bad spirit, you're probably doing something wrong to bring it. That's very possible. But use the hue. Hue. Do that. Make that noise several times. Unbalanced spirits cannot stand that, because if they do hang around, that frequency will snap them back into balance. So they're either going to become balanced and not a problem anymore, or they're going to book. They're going to boogie. But until tomorrow, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, wishing you peace and light.